Wait, look at what I'm holding. 4 wheat pennies, but I'm not showing you just any old coins. I've selected only 4 special wheat pennies that collectors would stop everything to investigate. Their potential value can reach thousands, tens of thousands, and in exceptional cases, far more. If one of these dates is sitting in your collection, don't clean it, don't spend it, and don't wait. Collectors, if you have one, contact me quickly, because the smallest detail could turn an ordinary penny into something extraordinary. Coin number 1. There is something unsettling about a 1940 Lincoln wheat penny with no mint mark. It looks old, dark, and almost forgotten. That is exactly why you should not ignore it. In your hand, it may feel like nothing more than a worn piece of change, but the right combination of date, surfaces, strike, and preservation can completely change how collectors see it. Most people miss this because they judge the coin by appearance alone. The year 1940 arrived as America was watching the world move deeper into the Second World War. The United States was still preparing for enormous industrial changes, while everyday Americans were living through an uncertain period. Lincoln cents from this era carry the atmosphere of that transition. The Philadelphia Mint produced this issue without a mint mark, while Denver and San Francisco issues carried their respective marks. That tiny absence is one of the first things collectors check. Turn the coin over, and the story becomes instantly recognizable. On the obverse is Abraham Lincoln facing right, with liberty along the left side and "In God We Trust" above his portrait. The date 1940 sits on the right. Flip it over, and you see the classic wheat reverse. United States of America, across the upper portion, 1 cent in the center, and E pluribus unum above, with 2 wheat ears framing the sides. This design is exactly what makes a wheat penny so addictive to collectors. Now feel the coin. A standard Lincoln cent from this period weighs about 3.11 grams, measures approximately 19.05 millimeters across, and is about 1.55 millimeters thick. Its edge is plain, giving you another simple inspection point. The metal is primarily copper, with the traditional bronze composition of roughly 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc used for Lincoln cents of this era. These physical specifications help separate a genuine coin from something altered, damaged, or suspicious. But here is where your black-shaded example becomes interesting. Dark color, rusty-looking patches, dirt, or uneven toning can make a coin look ugly, but appearance alone does not automatically make it worthless. Original surfaces can tell a story about decades of storage and circulation. Collectors may examine the fields around Lincoln, the lettering, wheat lines, rim, and date for signs of wear, damage, cleaning, or unusual preservation. This detail changes everything. Original toning matters. Minting itself was never perfectly gentle. Dies experienced wear, coins were struck repeatedly, and small differences in pressure and die condition could affect the sharpness of details. On a 1940 Philadelphia cent, collectors especially watched the date, lettering, wheat ears, and overall strike. With no mint mark, the coin should not suddenly be treated as a rare error simply because the letter is missing. The absence is normal for Philadelphia issues. The real excitement comes from the complete combination of authenticity, condition, surfaces, and collector demand. And your fine condition description matters. Fine condition means noticeable circulation wear, but important design elements remain visible. A coin that has survived decades without harsh cleaning can be far more attractive to collectors than one that has been aggressively polished. Never clean the coin? Never scrub away the dark surface. Never use chemicals to make it shine. Cleaning can permanently damage the original surface and destroy the very characteristics a serious collector wants to examine. Here is what I would do first. Hold the penny by its edges, use good lighting, and inspect the 1940 date, the absence of a mint mark, Lincoln's portrait, the lettering, and both wheat ears. Look for scratches, unnatural shine, corrosion, and signs of polishing. Then stop. Do not rush to sell it based on a social media claim. Professional grading is critical if the coin appears genuinely unusual or exceptionally preserved. Collectors do not simply chase old pennies, they chase the story attached to them. A 1940 wheat penny survived a completely different America and somehow remained in someone's pocket, drawer, collection, or forgotten box for decades. When an appealing example appears at auction, bidding can become surprisingly competitive. Serious collectors may hold desirable pieces instead of selling them, while available supply slowly disappears from the market. That combination creates the emotional pull, hidden wealth sitting quietly in plain sight. As for the claimed auction figure for this example, $88,000 is the value you've supplied for today's market scenario. Treat that as a claimed figure rather than a guaranteed price. Actual auction results depend heavily on authentication, grade, eye appeal, provenance, and whether the coin has any recognized variety or exceptional characteristic. A normal 1940 Philadelphia wheat penny is not automatically worth that amount. The serious money belongs to coins that can prove why they deserve it. So before you toss a dark, old penny back into circulation, remember what you are holding. It is a piece of American history with a classic wheat reverse, a Philadelphia issue with no mint mark, a bronze composition, and nearly a century of survival behind it. Patience creates wealth in collecting. Do not spend this coin until you've checked it properly. And don't go anywhere, because this was only the first door. The next coin has a detail that collectors watch even more closely, and once you see it, you may never look at an ordinary penny the same way again. Next up, coin number 2. If you're holding a wheat penny right now, don't assume it's just one more old cent. Because the 1942D wheat penny can hide details that most people never notice, and that is exactly why collectors stop when they see the right example. The D mint mark is the first thing you need to check. Before you toss an old penny back into circulation, look closely. Do not spend this coin until you know what you have. The year 1942 puts this little cent directly into one of the most dramatic periods in American history. The United States was deep into the pressure of World War II. Factories were changing production, materials were being redirected, and the country was moving through an enormous economic transition. Denver was producing coins during this demanding period, and the wheat penny carried the familiar Lincoln design that millions of Americans handled every day. But today, the survivors tell a very different story. Flip the coin over, and the first thing you should recognize is Abraham Lincoln facing right on the obverse. Around him are the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date 1942. Just beneath the date is the tiny D identifying the Denver Mint. That tiny letter may look insignificant, but to a collector hunting specific dates and mint combinations, it can become the detail that changes everything. Most people never even look for it. Now turn it around. The reverse carries the classic wheat cent design, 2 wheat ears framing the words 1 cent and United States of America, with E pluribus unum above. Those wheat stalks are exactly why collectors call these Lincoln cents wheat pennies. The design was created for everyday commerce, not for collectors, and that is part of the fascination. Something made to be spent without a second thought can become a serious collector target decades later. Here's something else you can actually feel. A standard 1942D Lincoln wheat cent measures about 19.05 millimeters in diameter, weighs approximately 3.11 grams, and is roughly 1.52 millimeters thick. Its edge is plain, and its circumference, or girth, if you measure around the outside, is about 59.8 millimeters. It was struck in the traditional bronze composition of approximately 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. So if your coin feels noticeably wrong, extremely light, or physically unusual, stop before assuming it is valuable. Get it examined. And then there is the surface. You describe this example as having fine condition with dark or brownish toning and old surface characteristics. That aged appearance can make a coin look unattractive to someone who only wants shiny change. But collectors know better. Original surfaces can tell a story. Natural brown, reddish brown, or darker toning may be completely different from artificial damage. Never clean the coin? Scrubbing, polishing, chemicals, or abrasive materials can permanently destroy the original surface and seriously hurt collector appeal. What makes the 1942D interesting isn't simply the age. It is the combination of date, Denver mint mark, surviving condition, strike quality, surface originality, and tiny details. Look closely around Lincoln's portrait. The date, the D, the lettering, and the wheat lines. The wear and production pressure can affect how sharply those details appear. A weak area does not automatically mean rarity, and a dark surface does not automatically mean value. The real excitement begins when several desirable characteristics appear together. Now imagine this coin sitting unnoticed in an old collection, a jar, a drawer, or a box of inherited change. For decades, somebody may have thought it was worth exactly 1 cent. That is the hidden treasure feeling collectors chase. When an attractive example appears, serious buyers can become surprisingly competitive. The strongest pieces may disappear into private collections instead of returning to circulation. And once a collector decides to hold, the available supply becomes even smaller. There is also a number circulating with this coin that deserves caution. Your stated auction figure is $17,100 or $17,100, but that should not be treated as a guaranteed market price for an ordinary 1942D wheat penny. Real prices depend heavily on authentication, grade, strike, color, surface quality, provenance, and whether the coin has a genuine recognized variety or error. Without those factors, an ordinary example can be worth dramatically less. That distinction is critical if you think you have one. So here is what I want you to do. Check the 1942 date first, then find the tiny D beneath the date. Examine the coin under good lighting without rubbing it. Look for original surfaces, strong details, unusual varieties, and signs of damage. Don't let dirt or dark toning tempt you into cleaning it. Original toning matters, and professional grading is critical when a potentially valuable example appears. Patience can protect far more value than rushing to sell or alter the coin. This is why an old 1942D wheat penny can feel like a silent fortune hiding in plain sight. It isn't the age alone that creates excitement. It's what the coin has survived, what details remain, and what collectors are willing to compete for when the right example appears. Do not spend this coin until you've checked it properly. And stay with me, because the next Wheat Penny takes this hunt into an even more dangerous territory. Another ordinary-looking date that could make you look at every penny in your pocket completely differently. Next up, coin number 3. Imagine finding a filthy brown wheat penny buried underneath ordinary change and almost throwing it away. That is exactly the trap with the 1956D Lincoln Wheat Penny. The black, rusty-looking surface may make it seem worthless, but before you judge it by appearance, find the tiny D beneath Lincoln's date. That one letter tells you where it was struck. And if you have one, do not spend this coin. The year 1956 came during a rapidly changing America. The country was moving deeper into the post-war economic boom. Manufacturing was expanding. Automobiles were becoming increasingly common, and everyday commerce was overflowing with coins. Wheat cents were still being produced for ordinary spending, meaning people had little reason to preserve them. Millions were handled, worn, lost, damaged, and eventually melted or discarded. The survivors we see today are what escaped that everyday cycle. Now look directly at the obverse. You should see Abraham Lincoln facing right with "In God We Trust" above his head, "Liberty" to the left, and 1956 on the right. Directly beneath the date is the small D, identifying the Denver Mint. That mint mark is not decoration. It is one of the first details a collector will inspect. On a genuine 1956D cent, the date and mint mark should be examined together, along with the surrounding fields for damage, alteration, or unusual characteristics. Turn it over, and the classic wheat reverse appears. Across the upper portion are United States of America and E pluribus unum. In the center is 1 cent, surrounded by 2 wheat ears. This famous reverse was used on Lincoln cents until 1958, making a 1956D a genuine member of the final years of the wheat penny era. For collectors, that connection gives the coin an emotional appeal far beyond its 1 cent face value. Now feel the physical specifications. A normal 1956D Lincoln wheat cent weighs approximately 3.11 grams, measures about 19.05 millimeters in diameter, and is roughly 1.55 millimeters thick. Its plain edge gives it a circumference or girth of approximately 59.8 millimeters. The coin is made primarily from the traditional bronze alloy used for Lincoln cents of this period, approximately 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. These measurements are useful because a coin that seems physically abnormal deserves closer examination before anyone makes a value claim. But here is where your particular example becomes visually dramatic. You described it as having black, rust-like spots, dirt, and an aged surface. Don't immediately assume that ugly means worthless. Natural toning and accumulated surface color can develop over decades, and collectors may want to see the original surface rather than a freshly polished one. At the same time, actual corrosion, environmental damage, scratches, or chemical treatment can hurt the coin badly. Never clean it. No polish, no abrasive cloth, no chemicals, and no household tricks. The details collectors fixate on can be incredibly small. Examine the 1956 date, the shape and position of the D mint mark, Lincoln's hair and cheek, the lettering, the rims, and especially the wheat lines on the reverse. Minting pressure and die wear can influence how sharply these features appear, but ordinary die wear should not automatically be called a rare error. This is where patience matters. Most people miss this because they see an old dirty penny and make a decision in seconds. And think about what happened to this coin after it left the Denver Mint. It may have traveled through shops, pockets, cash registers, banks, and countless hands. Someone may have spent it without even looking at the date. Then, somehow it survived for nearly 70 years and ended up in your possession. That survival story is part of the attraction. Collectors aren't just buying metal, they're competing for pieces of history that escape destruction and careless handling. The collector demand becomes much more serious when an example combines an authentic date and mint mark with strong details, attractive original color, and an unusually well-preserved surface. At an auction, a desirable coin can attract quiet attention at first, followed by aggressive bidding when multiple collectors want the same piece. Some buyers hold coins for years rather than selling them immediately. When desirable examples disappear into collections, available supply becomes tighter, and that scarcity can increase competition. Now we need to talk about the huge figure attached to this coin. The value you supplied is $477,000 or $477,000. But I want you to understand this clearly. That is a claimed market scenario, not a guaranteed value for an ordinary 1956D wheat penny. A normal 1956D is not automatically worth hundreds of thousands of dollars simply because it is old, dark, or dirty. A legitimate price at that level would require extraordinary evidence, such as an exceptional grade, recognized variety, major mint error, or another independently verified characteristic. So if you think you have this coin, don't rush. First, confirm the 1956 date and D mint mark. Then inspect the surfaces under good lighting. Check whether the dark color appears natural and look for cleaning, corrosion, scratches, or altered details. Photograph both sides before handling it extensively. If something genuinely unusual appears, professional grading is critical. An independent expert can establish authenticity, condition, and whether the coin has a recognized variety. And remember this, original toning matters. That black or brown appearance might be nothing more than age and environmental exposure, or it could represent damage. You cannot determine serious value from color alone. The biggest mistake would be trying to make the coin look better by cleaning it. Once that original surface is damaged, you cannot simply put it back. This is why the 1956D wheat penny can feel like hidden treasure. It was created as everyday money, passed through ordinary American life, and now sits in a collector world where tiny details can matter enormously. Do not spend this coin until you've checked it carefully. Patience, preservation, and proper authentication are your best moves. And now you've seen what can hide behind a dirty surface. But the next coin is where the hunt gets even more intense. The date changes, the history gets darker, and one tiny detail could make collectors look twice. Stay with me, because the next discovery may be the one you absolutely do not want to miss. Next up, coin number 4. That ugly little 1957D wheat penny may be the coin people dismiss too quickly. Covered in black spots, dirt, and a rough-looking surface, it hardly screams treasure. But that is exactly what makes this one worth a closer look. The D beneath the date tells you it was struck at Denver, and the final years of the wheat reverse give this coin a powerful collector story. Before you put it back into circulation, do not spend this coin. The year 1957 arrived during a major period of post-war American prosperity. Dwight D. Eisenhower was president, manufacturing and consumer spending were expanding, and the United States was rapidly changing. Yet the 1-cent coin remained a workhorse of everyday commerce. Denver struck more than 1,001,957 cents, so this is not a rare date simply because of its age. The real hunt begins when you examine the individual coin, its preservation, surfaces, strike, color, and any legitimate variety or error. Now turn the coin toward the light. On the front is Victor David Brenner's portrait of Abraham Lincoln facing right. Above him is In God We Trust, while Liberty appears on the left and 1957 appears on the right. Directly beneath that date is the small D mint mark for Denver. That tiny letter is one of the first things a collector checks. If you're searching through old pennies, don't just look at the year, look underneath it. That is where the story begins. Flip it over and you get the classic wheat design. 2 wheat ears frame 1 cent, while United States of America appears around the center and E pluribus unum runs along the upper rim. This was one of the final generations of the wheat reverse, which ended after 1958, when the Lincoln Memorial design took over. That makes a 1,957 cent part of the close. Treat that. Photograph both sides before handling it extensively. If something genuinely unusual appears, professional grading is critical. An independent expert can establish authenticity, condition, and whether the coin has a recognized variety. And remember this, original toning matters. That black or brown appearance might be nothing more than age and environmental exposure, or it could represent damage. You cannot determine serious value from color alone. The biggest mistake would be trying to make the coin look better by cleaning it. Once that original surface is damaged, you cannot simply put it back. This is why the 1956D wheat penny can feel like hidden treasure. It was created as everyday money, passed through ordinary American life, and now sits in a collector world where tiny details can matter enormously. Do not spend this coin until you've checked it carefully. Patience, preservation, and proper authentication are your best moves. And now you've seen what can hide behind a dirty surface. But the next coin is where the hunt gets even more intense. The date changes, the history gets darker, and one tiny detail could make collectors look twice. Stay with me, because the next discovery may be the one you absolutely do not want to miss. Next up, coin number 4. That ugly little 1957D wheat penny may be the coin people dismiss too quickly. Covered in black spots, dirt, and a rough-looking surface, it hardly screams treasure. But that is exactly what makes this one worth a closer look. The D beneath the date tells you it was struck at Denver, and the final years of the wheat reverse give this coin a powerful collector story. Before you put it back into circulation, do not spend this coin. The year 1957 arrived during a major period of post-war American prosperity. Dwight D. Eisenhower was president, manufacturing and consumer spending were expanding, and the United States was rapidly changing. Yet the 1-cent coin remained a workhorse of everyday commerce. Denver struck more than 1,001,957 cents, so this is not a rare date simply because of its age. The real hunt begins when you examine the individual coin, its preservation, surfaces, strike, color, and any legitimate variety or error. Now turn the coin toward the light. On the front is Victor David Brenner's portrait of Abraham Lincoln facing right. Above him is "In God We Trust," while Liberty appears on the left and 1957 appears on the right. Directly beneath that date is the small D mint mark for Denver. That tiny letter is one of the first things a collector checks. If you're searching through old pennies, don't just look at the year, look underneath it. That is where the story begins. Flip it over and you get the classic wheat design. 2 wheat ears frame 1 cent, while United States of America appears around the center and E pluribus unum runs along the upper rim. This was one of the final generations of the wheat reverse, which ended after 1958, when the Lincoln Memorial design took over. That makes a 1957 cent part of the closing chapter of an iconic American coin design. And now feel the coin. A genuine 1957D Lincoln cent weighs about 3.11 grams, measures approximately 19 millimeters across, and has a plain edge. Its traditional bronze composition is about 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. Its circumference, or girth, if you're measuring around the edge, is roughly 59.7 millimeters based on its diameter. These measurements are useful checkpoints, especially if a coin looks suspiciously altered or physically different. But your example has something that immediately catches the eye. Black spots, dirt, and an old, poor-looking surface. Don't make the mistake of assuming ugly automatically means worthless. Natural brown or dark toning can develop on copper over decades. But corrosion, harsh environmental damage, polishing, and chemical treatment are completely different. The surface needs to be examined rather than fixed. Never clean this penny. A shiny coin created by rubbing or chemicals can be less desirable than an honestly aged original surface. Here's where the tiny details become dangerous to ignore. Examine the 1957 date, the D mint mark, Lincoln's hair and cheek, the lettering, the rims, and the wheat lines. Look for unnatural scratches, evidence of polishing, double details, dye characteristics, or anything that looks genuinely different from a normal strike. Minting involves tremendous mechanical pressure, and dyes wear over time, but ordinary dye wear is not automatically a valuable error. Most people miss this because they see dirt before they see the coin. The condition you've given is poor, and that matters enormously. A heavily circulated 1957D is generally far less desirable than a sharply preserved example. Professional collectors compare surfaces, detail, color, strike, and damage very carefully. In fact, PCGS records the 1957D series in brown, and red designations, showing how much copper color and preservation can matter to the collecting community. Now imagine where this penny has been. It was made in Denver when America was racing